I'm going to put this out because it's really a conspiracy theory. It strikes a real tune with me. And I don't get too far out on tangents. You know, I think AJ is a bunch of garbage, and another guy from the UK talking about the lizard people, he's a bunch of BS too. But my buddy and partner here, Bootin' the Cat, says, go tell the humans. He says, go tell them. You know, cats care about people, and people should care about cats. I mean, that's really how it should be. So he's got a, you know, even though he's got big claws and he can bite you if you, but he's a really calm guy, really. You know, he never bites me. But I'm going to tell you this about Dr. Bob Beck, Ph.D., whatever it is. You know, I was digging into, like, his blood electrification. I'm going to say, in my opinion, it is 100% factual that blood electrification is useful. And somehow it gives you more energy. But I also put videos out warning people not to depend upon it on life-threatening illnesses and still see your medical doctor. And also it would be good if you can get the kind that has the 10 hertz setting and the 40 hertz setting, so you can use meds and, you know, work with your doctor too. These doctors aren't all screwed up. I don't like a lot of them, to tell you the truth. I don't, because they're very money orientated, but they're not all screwed up. But you know, it's getting to be like in the medical profession now that Dr. Beck, Ph.D., is being regarded as a quack. Now, I think he made some errors, but then I think I didn't want to say it before in the other video because it would be slamming him too much. But something alerted me to something else. And, well, we'll put it as a conspiracy theory. But it hit a chord with me and hit a chord with Putin there too, the cat. Putin the cat, I wasn't going to say nothing, but Putin the cat told me, hey, you better say something. So, he's a nice cat. He cares about people, and I said people should care about cats. But anyway, you know, Dr. Bob Beck never really, you know, he made some overblown claims on some things. I don't think he was that stupid. Like, for instance, when he was doing the HIV people, you know, he died in 2002. By that time, things were coming out about, you know, better tests and all this kind of garbage. He said there was other things. I don't know if it's, you know, if it's directly from him because you get it on the internet. He also said that there was PCR people, HIV positive people had viral loads go to 0 after using his device. That doesn't happen. That's BS. You can look on, I'm not going to say who it is. There's an Australian guy out there that says he used it for 2 years, and he's got like, you know, he's got like a, right in the middle, like a, he's got the, it didn't go to 0. It went to, it's like 50,000, 20,000, 80,000. It's like, where the hell, it's, you know, it's like, kind of like what everybody has, I guess, you know, if they have that. And there's people out there that say they've been doing it for so many months and it doesn't do anything. And there's other people I've saw that were medical journalists, and he said a friend of his had one of those black box zappers, and he was using it because he said, you know, he went by Dr. Beck's words, and till he wound up in a hospital, right? So, you know, I know, to me, you know, I don't think you should use that. You can use that in conjunction with other things, you know. But this, I was watching something on YouTube. I'm not going to say who it was, but it's somebody I respect greatly. And this guy was asking him, you know, he's a genius, basically, right? This guy was asking him in an interview. It was just like maybe 1 minute clip you saw. He goes, he asked him about Dr. Beck, and this guy said his opinion on Dr. Beck was he was a CIA disinformation agent. And I started thinking about that. I says, you know, it's interesting what Dr. Beck leaves out. He leaves out, like he'll tell you about the medical-mafia, but he doesn't tell you anything about the government deliberately putting shit in vaccines and all this kind of crap and the cancer-causing agents and all this other stuff. He doesn't say much about that. He talks about the medical-mafia, you know? Then, yeah, this guy asked Beck about, you know, the effectiveness of his devices. He says, you know, it doesn't work. he didn't really say that, but he says his device was the only one that worked. Then he asked him about soda instruments. He just didn't reply. But his non-reply was an answer. You know? His non-reply was an answer. You know, my opinion is, actually, if you get a zapper, you should go for one of the builders on eBay and use one of them. They're a lot cheaper. Plus, it's a 3 or 4 battery setup, which is a lot stronger. But it's not a cure-all. But let me put it this way. How does disinformation work? It's like you get a bunch of stuff that's true, and you got something in there that's BS. That's the target you want people to do. In other words, how do you get a fish to bite on a hook? You put meat around it, then they bite. That's simply how disinformation works. You know, Dr. Beck wasn't too critical of the government, per se. He said the FDA, but he wasn't talking about a lot of other stuff. That's kind of interesting. So this guy's opinion kind of alerted me to something, because he said that Dr. Beck was going around collecting all the Rife machines. And I started thinking about that. I don't know if it's true. But you know, every single conventional doctor out there practically looks at this, you know, the Beck protocol is like useful. But you know, if you got like cancer or HIV, like the big things it's supposed to conquer, if you do that Beck protocol, I don't think you're going to survive. You know, it might help you, but I don't think you survive. You see, the other story is, you know, he did a zapper for 24 hours a day. How do you know he was using that particular thing? How do you know he wasn't using a Rife machine? And it's pretty interesting that a guy like him with 180 IQ would not develop the Rife technology that definitely works. Was he too stupid? I mean, it's almost like we got something that helps with stuff, but not the thing that's going to make the big difference. That's almost how I look at it. And you know, it might be true, because this one I was looking at the interview that I have a lot of respect for him. He said he thought Dr. Beck was a CIA disinformation agent. Now, I don't know if you want to listen to that statement or not, but maybe it is. Maybe it's true. It's like he gave you something good, but the real thing that can clobber things was the Rife technology. The problem is with the Rife technology is there's so much bullshit around it that it's ridiculously screwed up that you can't tell what's real and what's not. There's probably a few experts that exist, but they're not going to come out in public and say what it is. That's my suspicion. But now I start thinking about it. You know, I actually suspected that Dr. Beck might have been killed for something, you know. I do. I think Atkins was killed. I know he fell on the ice, but then he died in the hospital over complications. Like, he was fine on the way to the hospital. I mean, there's people that, you know, there's witnesses that walked in a helicopter in Bosnia when things happened over there, and all of a sudden they died on the way being medevaced, but they walked into the medevac helicopter, you know? That's really where the stuff happens. People like AJ are complete disinformation. LW is disinformation. I know people are going to get mad at me for saying that. He is too. And that guy from the UK with the lizard people that talks about the lizard people, maybe Bob Beck, gave you a partial answer just so you bite and not look at Rife technology, because maybe Rife technology is the thing. Maybe it is. Problem is, it's too complicated for us, but it wouldn't have been too complicated for him. You got to remember, this guy was the top in his field. Just think of that common sense thing. This guy was the top of his field. He was working with the government on all these, problems where they're having, the Russians were using frequencies against the United States, the woodpecker operation and all that kind of crap. He was working with the top people in the government on all kinds of frequency stuff. He knew all kinds of stuff the Russians were doing research on medicine, and also all kinds of stuff that was used in the Defense Department. So when this guy told me that he was disinformation agent from the CIA, that fits, because Beck could have easily made Rife devices and said, use these 5 settings for this, these 6 settings for this, these 12 settings for this, these 3 settings for this, and it would have worked. And anybody could probably have copied those plans too, just like the thing you developed right here. So like I said, it's like you got to give somebody a gem so they bite. You know, what do they do like when you want you to go walk in the store? They give you, what do they do when you want, you know, or bank with them? They give you a free toaster and, you know, $100 credit on your free checking or something in your checking, or $100 credit in your savings or whatever, right? You bank with them for the first year or whatever. Same kind of deal. So, he does have a long history of working with the government. But when this highly respected person said this on YouTube, it's clicking with me like big time. Big time, man. So the Beck protocol is useful, but it's not against life-threatening illnesses. In other words, you know, I don't know if he used that to even cure cancer on himself. He did something to cure cancer. Something. He did something with frequencies or electricity or something. I don't know if it actually was that device. You know, that's the device he says, oh, go to Soda Instruments and buy that device. How do you know it was really, that was the device he used? You know, it's like, oh, we can't put these tests out there because, you know, the Medical-mafia will get us. And you know what? Don't use that word mafia. The mafia's got fucking way more honor than these jerks that are putting out these little bullshit stories about suppressed medical technology. You know? If you have information that says it works, you could post it anywhere, and you could post it anywhere anonymously. You know? It doesn't have to be hidden. You wouldn't even know it came from you if you had that information that proves that it works and exactly how you did it. See what I mean? It's not the whole ball of wax he's throwing at you. So that little supposition by somebody, or I don't know, that was his opinion, but it rings really good with me now. It's disinformation. It's like you got something pretty good. The the Beck blood electrifier is pretty good. But it's not good enough for the really bad stuff. And you know what? That's been the consensus for a long time. But you know, Beck also tells you, oh, Rife, you know, nobody knows what it did. Just use this. And you know, you look out there, how many blogs do you see out there to, you know, the cure for all diseases? And then you have Beck's speeches going back in the 1990s. And then you have a link for a coupon discount for Soda Instruments. I mean, I like to know, you know, it's almost like a direct sales pitch to me. You know? Like, I don't know who sets these blogs up. Now, when I'm putting out something about bioelectric products, that guy is honest. That's my opinion. He's 110% honest. But you know what? I ain't selling nothing. I'm not getting any kind. I'm not even getting like $1 for any unit that you bought from him or some shit like that. Not at all. Not at all. Not even a penny financial link in any way. I just read that guy's freaking 100% honest, and far more honest than all the rest of the people in the alternative medicine world. And it's not really alternative. It's the real medicine world, because it came from real medical people in the first place, trying to separate the fact from the fiction. But it may be that Beck threw you out some good stuff, but he wanted you to avoid the really best stuff out there. That may be the case, because he does ignore a lot of the, you know, he talks about the Medical-mafia, like, you know, it's just money. That's really what it is. It ain't mafia. They just charge a lot of money for stupid bullshit. But he talks about them like they're the whole problem. But you know what? It isn't. It isn't. Actually, a lot of these cancer-causing agents and a lot of these things like AIDS and stuff, I think they came from the government itself. And also look at mad cow disease. Where the hell did that come from? Where did Lyme disease come from? I think that came from that island off of Long Island, that island out there. They would do all the experiments because that's really the first thing where it came from, right? And if you look, and if you think there isn't a depopulation plan, look at the 1987 Cairo conference in Egypt and about the population control. Also, go visit Georgia, where the Georgia Guidestones are, and read the first one, which is keep the population below 500 million. Somebody paid over $20 million for those granite stones in Georgia. I mean, you can say it's some bullshit, but it's not like somebody's put up the Illuminati website and says keep the population below 500 million. No, somebody spent $20 million putting up that thing for who the hell no, somebody with big bucks. And you can say that's nothing, but you start adding the links together, and Beck avoided that subject about population control and the government involved in it. And he did work very high up in the government for a number of years. So I'm wondering. The reason I'm wondering is because somebody else put out something that said, he was a CIA, that was his opinion. And he says his devices don't work against severe things. And he asked him, well, what about soda? Are you saying soda instruments? And he just ignored it. He ignored the question. He didn't want to say nothing. My opinion is, actually, if you get a Beck zapper, there's a lot of other vendors out there making better stuff for less money. So that's what you want to do. But don't expect that as a lifesaver. It's not. That's the whole point, too. And Beck should have known better. I think he made, I was being nice about that PCR test stuff, but now I start thinking about it. How many people have bought something from a zapper that was a Beck designed zapper or a zapper from Soda Instruments and tried to cure cancer with it? Now I've heard that Beck used it 24 hours a day. But how many people tried to cure cancer with that and relied on that solely and died? I bet you a lot. That's fucked up. I'll say that right now. That's why I say if you buy the zapper, it probably is useful for a lot of microbes and stuff. It's it's like he threw something out there that's useful, but he didn't throw out the real cures. And that's probably the disinformation. That's what I'm smelling. So, actually, my opinion is, if you buy a zapper, that's why I like the bioelectric products, because he has, the indicator light where you don't turn it up too high so it doesn't, you don't feel it, hurts your skin. He has it where you can put it like for 10 hertz for meds, and if you got really strong meds, you can put it on 40 hertz, and you can still take the meds and work with your doctor, and there's no interference with the conventional medicine at all. There's no conflict. So it's not like you're not, it's like, Bob Beck's flat out stated, don't take any meds. Now, for him to say that thing's got to work for the really bad shit, and it doesn't. And I don't know, I tell you, man, so I'm putting this out straight scoop. You could say it as a conspiracy theory, but pay attention to how I put this out here, because, something smells. You know what I mean? Something smells with this whole deal. It's probably disinformation. So what you're going to get from me is, if I put something out that I think is a conspiracy, I don't know, a lot of people that are into conspiracies might not bite on what I'm saying, but I'm not out here trying to market conspiracies. I'm trying to get to the facts. This guy should have known with the capability of what the device was that he put out. It's lukewarm. It does something. It's pretty decent. It's definitely well worth the money, especially from, the people that sell them for like a couple $100 or under $200. It's worth the money for that kind of stuff. But is it gonna save your life if you have this life debilitating cancer or AIDS and you're in wheelchairs? Yeah, he was talking he had AIDS patients in wheelchairs, and they he zapped them for so many months and they were all healthy again. That's what you go take a look at his videos, and that's what he says. He says he in fact was in a wheelchair, and he did something to cure his cancer. But how do you really know what he did? This guy wasn't stupid. I bet you if anybody on the whole planet at that time could have understood Rife technology really good, would have been him. So he gave you something else that was maybe less than that. That might be what's going on. I'm not sure. But like I said, when I saw what this person's reaction was when he was asked by somebody, what do you think about Bob Beck? He says he was a CIA disinformation agent. I respect that person who said that. Then he says, what about his thing for curing this? He says, that doesn't work. This is the only thing that works that I have here. Then he was asked, what do you think about soda instruments? And he just didn't talk, and he just walked away. So what does that tell you, man? That is ringing with me loud and clear, and I smell something. Anyway, conspiracy, right? Whatever.